Pope Francis may never return to Argentina, his motherland. In fact, his greatest nemesis might soon be Argentina's new president. Join us with the latest from the Eternal City, Church Militant Rome correspondent, Dr. Jules Gomes. Jules, this is a surprise, isn't it? Because on his way back from Mongolia, Pope Francis actually said that the only reason he was finding it difficult to go home was his health. What's changed since then?
Well, a lot has changed since then. Javier Melaye, the presidential candidate who now has more than 30% of the support from the Argentinian electorate, has been bashing and trashing Pope Francis. He's used, he's heaped copious insults on Pope Francis. Not only that, he's upset a number of priests who are supporters of Francis. Very importantly, however, he's done an interview just last week with the American celebrity journalist Tucker Carlson. And that interview has gone viral in the Western world, in the English-speaking world. And that is something that has really caused an earthquake in the Vatican, because everybody in the English-speaking world now knows who Javier Melaye is and what he has to say about Pope Francis.
And even the head of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, Fernandez, who comes from Argentina, he's spoken about this?
Well, let me quote directly to you what he said. He says, surely the Pope will not go to a place where he is not invited, where his visit can be used or complicated for political convenience, or where the authorities despise his presence. And boy, Melaye does despise Pope Francis. They are on two totally opposite ends of the political and ideological spectrum. Melaye is a populist, he's a libertarian, and he says he's a Catholic as well.
Let's talk about the timing of Fernandez's comments. Do you think they had any relationship whatsoever to do with the interview that Melaye had with Tucker Carlson?
I think so, very much. Melaye was already making a lot of noise and upsetting people, but this was all on the ground and confined to, media like La Nación and other Spanish media in Argentina. But then Tucker flew into Argentina, sat with Melaye, did, I think, 30-minute interview, half-an-hour interview, and Tucker spoke in English with a translator. Melaye spoke in Spanish, subtitles in English, and this is now really hitting social media big time.
So what did Melaye actually have to say, the presidential candidate there, have to say about Pope Francis to Tucker?
Well, he was very, very clear about Pope Francis's affinity for bloodthirsty, cruel, and megalomaniacal dictators. Let's listen and hear what Melaye himself says.
So I would think you're a Catholic. You said you're just defending really the Catholic life principle. The Pope, the current Pope, is from Argentina. I would think he would support you. He has instead criticized you, and you've called him a communist. Why the disconnect?
Bueno, primero porque el Papa juega políticamente. Es decir, es un Papa donde tiene fuerte injerencia política. Ha demostrado además una gran afinidad con dictadores como Castro o como con Maduro, es decir, está del lado de dictaduras sangrientas.
Wait, I'm sorry, Raúl Castro's a murderer.
Sí, y Fidel Castro también era otro asesino.
But the Pope, you believe the Pope has an affinity for Raúl Castro?
Sí, exacto. Sí, tiene afinidad por los comunistas asesinos. De hecho, no los condena. Es decir, es bastante condescendiente con ellos. Y es también condescendiente con la dictadura venezolana. Es decir, él es condescendiente con todos los de izquierdas, aun cuando sean verdaderos criminales. lo cual eso es un problema.
Those are some strong words, Jules, coming from Melaye. What's his political positions? Is he on the right?
He's even further, or we might use different term. He explains it. He's not a liberal, he says in the interview, but a libertarian, particularly in economics. He believes very strongly in the invisible hand of capitalism, and he accuses leftist governments, communist dictatorships, or even soft socialist governments of turning the invisible hand of the market into the claw of the state. Interestingly, Brad, he quotes the 10 Commandments, and he says, "Thou shalt not steal." What moral fiber does the Catholic Church have to say we support so-called social justice when basically that is stealing from one person, quite often people who don't want to work, and giving it to people who are really hardworking? Now, most interesting is the fact that Melaye himself is an economist, a highly intelligent person. He quotes Milton Friedman, for example, in this interview. And however, he doesn't wear his scholarship on his sleeve. Like Donald Trump, he's able to talk to the common person and really, get the masses voting for him, get the masses speaking in his favor. And he's successful because he's put his finger on the fact that Argentina, one of the most prosperous countries in the world, has been reduced to a failed state. And why? It is because of socialism.
Yeah, now let's focus on his Catholic moral issues. How is he on Catholic moral issues like, say, abortion?
Well, surprisingly, despite the fact that he's a libertarian, and this is where people would immediately go, oh, that means he favors, killing your baby. And he says no, and he articulates it very carefully, both philosophically and scientifically. Listen, to what he has to say. He puts it best in his own words.
You oppose abortion. Why?
Bueno, porque como liberal, o sea, liberal libertario, claro, porque en inglés liberal es distinto, así que lo voy a decir como libertario. Nosotros creemos que el liberalismo es el respeto irrestricto del proyecto de vida del prójimo, basado en el principio de no agresión y en defensa del derecho a la vida, a la libertad y a la propiedad. Por lo tanto, adhiriendo a las ideas de la libertad, básicamente, una de las ideas fundamentales es defender el derecho a la vida. O sea, filosóficamente estoy a favor de respetar el derecho a la vida. Después hay una justificación desde el plano de vista de la ciencia, de las ciencias naturales, digamos, que es el hecho de que la vida comienza en el momento de la fecundación. Y en ese mismo momento se genera un nuevo ser en evolución, ¿sí?, con un ADN distinto. Es decir, es cierto que la mujer tiene derechos sobre su cuerpo, pero ese niño dentro del vientre no es su cuerpo. Es decir, el niño no es su cuerpo. Por lo tanto, el aborto es un asesinato agravado por el vínculo y por la diferencial de fuerzas, ya que no tiene forma de defenderse.
Well, life begins at conception, and that baby in the womb is not part of the woman's body. Those are some very pro-life statements there. Are the priests, final question, Jules, are the priests supporting, priests and people actually, supporting Melaye, or are they supporting Pope Francis?
You would think with such a strong position on abortion, every single priest in Argentina would be supporting Melaye against other candidates who are pro-abortion, wouldn't you, Brad? But no, there is a significant minority of priests who are very much aligned with Pope Francis and are defending him. The people, interestingly, they claim the people are with them, but from the statistics and from Argentinians I've spoken to, even Argentinian priests who roll their eyes when you mention Pope Francis's name, they're not in favor of Pope Francis because they see him as part of this globalist cabal, aligned with people like Bill Gates and Jeffrey Sachs and Bill Clinton and Klaus Schwab. And they also are living the destruction, the hell that socialism has wrought on their own country. So this is a very small, they had a mass in protest, in the streets a couple of weeks ago in one of the shanty towns of Buenos Aires. But they are not going to really get the Catholic masses on their side, and Javier Melaye knows this very well.
Well, he also needs a haircut if he's going to get my vote. But Pope Francis does seem to be avoiding Argentina, and from what many locals say, he's not welcome there. Wish some of that could have been coming to light before the last conclave, just saying. Jules, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have a report involving Tucker Carlson. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.